welcome to another Project ATLA video. Today is going to be a slight jump away from the roller coaster section, and we're going straight into the Kuka Arm area. For two reasons. One, I'm struggling to get the roller coaster section's save file to load correctly. I think that there might be an issue with the electromagnet mod, and I might need to readjust some stuff because of that, which kind of sucks, but we'll live with it. And also because this is actually something I'm struggling to... There was some stuff that occurred this week with class and my locomotive, and I wasn't able to get enough time-lapse footage, so we're doing something live today. Partially because partially because again I didn't have enough footage, and also I don't feel like doing a time lapse of how this is built works, or how this works. Excuse me, can I get a grammar teacher over here? In order for us to really understand what's going on here, and keep in mind that this is just a very basic test frame, it will be updated. The arm probably will stay the same though, and we'll actually continue to work a small bit on the arm today. But starting out, our main object that we're using a lot here is this right here. This is the wireless transmitter and receiver from the mod pack. Wireless. And that is going to be sending all of the data between a behind the scenes base or control area to the individual arms. Very similar to how it's done on Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey. Actually, that might not be the case. I think that their computers are on board. Anyways, I'm getting away from myself. In order for us to be able to accurately turn these pivot points, and you can see there's two of them set up already, we're going to be using these fancy things called smart motors. Now, for those of you that know how the mod pack works, a lot of this all just makes perfect sense to you. For those of you that don't really use the mod pack, these things are essentially the perfect medium between a controller and a motor. And what I mean by that is that you are able to input a number into this using the number logic, as you can see all around me. And it requires 4 numbers. Well, it requires 3, but we're using all 4 in this case. And those 4 numbers will allow us to completely have a full range of control over a single bearing, or multiple bearings as long as they're all the same. So, for example, you'll notice that this is kind of tilted right now. If I turn that on, you'll see that it's no longer tilted. All I did was I changed the speed that was going to these 2 motors, which is this white number right here. And the colors do matter in this specific situation. So this now is getting a big number for speed. I don't remember what the exact number is off the top of my head, but it's a binary value. No, that's not right. It's a base 2 number. There we go. And this is just saying, yes, we want these on. And there's 2 numbers on the inside that I'm just using the defaults, which means that I'm not changing those numbers, so I don't need to input any of those numbers. And then the last number is angle in this specific situation. So what we have here is we've got the 2 of them. We've got one that's turning the base, and then we've got one that's going right here. Now, for the base, we've got this lovely little receiver right here, which is, as you can see, receiving, and on channel 1. The channel is going to be set up by a My brain is somewhere else right now. I am so sorry, guys. And girls, I suppose. The each of these vehicles, if you want to call them that, roving Kuka Arms, will have this onboard memory that will essentially say, "Hey, we're currently at blank. We are currently number blank." And in this case, we are number 1. We are vehicle number 1. And this is transmitting to all over the vehicle. You can see it's actually transmitting to the front and back right here. If somebody needs to do maintenance, they can come up to it and see exactly which vehicle number it is. And it's also sending to, there's 2 or 3 onboard connectors. There's one right here, and one right here. This one is away from the others because this is actually for motor control. It's just being sent to on-off, and that's just going to a standard electric motor. This one is controlling the turn. So if we go over to our little test rig over here, you'll see that this is sending out on number 1. And I know that this looks like the exact same color. I assure you it's not. I checked multiple times. It is not the same color. But if we come over here and we press this button, that's the wrong one. If we come over here and press this button, we'll see that this is now turned a small bit. And it's specifically turning to, I believe, 32 degrees? No, 64 degrees. Hold on. No, I think it is 32. There's a really easy way of checking this. Okay, so it's going to 32 degrees. There we go. So this is now at 32 degrees. And if I turn this one back off, it will reset to that first position. Which is how we are going to be using all of this fun stuff. Now, this is going to get really funky. Because when I first developed this, because I don't know if anybody's really used this sort of system to control onboard systems using an off-board computer. So I might have pioneered it. I don't know off the top of my head, actually, because I haven't seen anybody else doing this before. But the way that I originally did it, because I created the system for the Indiana Jones project, where I was recreating the Indiana Jones and the Temple of the Forbidden Eye. Yes, the Temple of the Forbidden Eye ride at Disneyland. And I used a really funky sensor system that essentially each ride vehicle would have a singular colored block, say like right here or something. And that color would indicate what ride vehicle it is. So white was 1, this pastel yellow was 2, this was 4, so on and so forth. So that's how that system worked. And yes, it works. It does work. It's kind of it is a really weird system of numbers and stuff, but it does work. However, it requires a lot of it's not exactly small. It takes up maybe this much space, I think, off the top of my head. I'm not certain about that, but it's not exactly small, and it is, if even the tiniest problem occurs with it, everything just essentially starts to go bad. And I don't know off the top of my head if, because the mod pack for a time was not working correctly, I don't know if that save of that number. Oh, actually, here it is. Oh, it's a lot smaller than I remember it being. Huh, weird. Anyways, this is the. Oh no, that is not the correct one. This is for the Great Movie Ride identifier. Where is the one that I created? I have no clue where in the world that thing is gone. Oh, here it is. Color Translator. Now, I'm sure this could probably become a lot smaller, and I think I created a smaller version up to it. And you can see that it translates up to the 20th color. Now, yes, this is technically a lot bigger than it actually normally would be. But, if you excuse me, I'm so sorry. But again, if even the smallest thing occurs, it just stops working, essentially. So I'm going to try something a bit different today. I'm going to be having the off. The computer is still going to be off board. There's going to be some sort of a control system like this that has all these things on it that we will actually probably go into in a bit later. And this is going to indicate when it's in the next section. Now, what I mean by that is that the computer will have essentially a number system that it knows what exactly at each scene what the numbers need to be for all the various bearings. So rotation, this arm. There's actually another rotation here, which we will need to be adding in shortly. This arm, and then there's another rotation, and I think there's one last arm on the end of that. I'd have to double check that. But there's a fair number of joints, long story short. And there will be a system that just stores a bunch of numbers, and those numbers are specifically for that scene, or for that specific location. And what this will be doing is it will pick up when it's in the next section. It will not be identifying the section number though. It's going to be doing it sequentially, which means that if some reason it somehow accidentally misses that marker, it doesn't work, which is kind of a problem, and it's going to be a bit of a fun challenge for us to work around. And I do thankfully have an idea on how to do it, and it will involve this kind of median, if you will. So the way that this track plan works is that if I turn this on, you will see that it's going to just... It seems to have a small bit of trouble getting grip on the ground. I'm not sure why that is just yet, and I'll probably be poking around off camera on that. But you'll see that this just follows this track fairly nicely, actually. And the reason why it follows it a lot nicer than some of the other designs I've done in the past is because these two outer wheels are not powered. They're actually just there for stability. It's these two inner wheels that are on top of the track itself, I guess it's a bus bar, actually, that are on top of the bus bar that are actually being powered. Which means that as this moves along, these don't need to do... I don't have to deal with, like, weird turning radiuses and, like, having to turn a motor off or on and these sliding kind of all over the place. Because these aren't sliding. And you can see, like, this is just stopped straight up during that turn. And it will probably does weird things over there, as sliding being one of them. So that's one of the benefits of using this sort of system. And this is just a simple track layout for us testing. This is not an official track by any means. This is a test area. That's all this is. So again, this just kind of goes on its merry way. So let's figure out how we do. You can see right there, it's kind of jumping a small bit. There's seems to be some sort of an issue somewhere that causes it to kind of jump a small bit like that. I think it's an issue with the two support wheels. I'm not sure. So that might be something that we'll need to look into. Oh my good lord, I am so sorry. I keep yawning. Oh, I am so sorry about that. I must be more tired than I thought I was or something. So, how are we going to deal with the, essentially it catching a next scene? So how is it going to identify when there's a new scene? Well, normally I would do again, I would have done that color section, but I'm not using that color identifier. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. We're just going to be using a very simple system that may or may not work. And it... Oh, can I please have this, please? Thank you. It's going to involve this. This is just a simple, really basic sensor coming from the base game. Now, how this is going to work is that I'm thinking we'll probably put this right about... No, it's not a good place to put it. I'll put it, let's say, right about here-ish. So, there we go. There we go. And that is one block off of the ground, so it's not going to grind against the ground. And I have checked this. The track does, or the vehicle does not have any trouble with this width, though I might move. Ooh, that's flashing weirdly. Let me put this on this side, though. Are you still flashing weirdly? No. Okay, then. I'm not sure what was going on there, but seems to be just fine. So the way that this is going to work is that we are going to set this to a color. We're going to use probably gray as our marker for now, and that might change. So this indicates that now there is a new scene. So we can see, let me out. There we go. If I hop onto here, just put in like a little indicator or something, right? No, I still can't see it. There we go. Right along there. And I turn that on. I will. Oh, you know, it'd be really helpful if I remember to plug that in. Let's try that again, shall we? Oops-a-daisies. So there we go. So it is now about to enter into a new scene, and there it is. That's the new scene. Now, way that I'm planning on doing that is using. You'll notice that that's kind of a long kind of point, or I suppose it's a long tick amount. I suppose is a better way of putting it. It sustains for longer than I want it to. So the way that we're going to do with that next is that we need to find a way of doing essentially a singular tick mod, or a what is it? A pulse reducer, I think is what they refer to as. And this will be kind of interesting for me because I've never built. I've done it in Minecraft before, but I've never actually built this in Scrap Mechanics. So this will be an interesting challenge for me. So I'm actually going to put all this on this side. Let me say, yeah, let's go with and. Have that there. This is a NOR. There we go. So what this is going to do is that this is going to pulse for exactly one tick, or it should pulse for exactly one tick, because this is going to send to this, which is an AND. The other is already on, and then after a tick, which is this, it will send along the signal, which will turn this off. And this will stay on for as long as this is on. So that should work, right? Hold on, let me reset this to right about here-ish. Yeah, that works. And let's send this thing on its merry way. Oh, I forgot. I've got a emergency one right there. So let's see how well this works. Nope. Yep, I just saw a tick, one of the ticks for a second there. Oops. There. Yep. So there, for just a moment, it flashed a tick, which means that is an indicator to the system that it has reached the next scene. So how do we figure out what scene it's in now that we know when it's entered into the next scene? Well, that's going to be kind of easy, actually, because of a rather nice thing called... Oh, I'm an idiot. In the mod pack, there is a very lovely piece of technology, as soon as I can figure out, that is a counter. Now, I don't believe... No, it does not. Okay, so we might actually need to figure that out then. Because originally I thought that that would work. I thought that the reset was different. I thought that the reset would just set it to... Or I thought that there was a different value that you could do the reset, but it's not... you have to manually set it to, well, yes. Anyways, we will probably have to do something slightly differently. So now for an interesting time. So let's say we're in first scene. Oh dear. And this is all going to be running into a bunch of here we go. So this is going to run into a bunch of memory panels, and that will run this will save the state that it's supposed to be in, and the scene will go to that specific memory section in the memory panel. There we go. That's some good wording. Oh, jeez. Let me actually, while I'm thinking about it, do this really quickly. There we go. So now comes the interesting bit of how do we get from a pulse into adding from here. And that's a bit of an interesting trick. So let's play around a small bit, shall we? So we're adding... Oh, hold on. Oh, hold on. I know how to do it. I think I figured out how to do this. So this is actually going to use another memory panel, which I don't want to have to use, but that might just be how we're dealing with this for now. So let's say this is receiving from that over there. And that is going to go into this, because it's just going to receive a 1 or a 0. There we go. Let me really quickly put in... Oh, I don't have any switches! Let me really quickly set everything here to be set up so this is control for... be helpful if I colored this the right thing. Oh, it doesn't. Ooh. That jumped and I didn't like that sound. Let me... There we go. So now this is receiving on 1, which means that this is receiving information from cart 1. So going from here, we're going to get a pulse value. So that's going to go into this, which will be 1 or whatever. Right? Yeah, right. Okay. And there will be a second... There will probably be a second input, which will be a reset. Why could I not do that? There we go. This is a reset, and that will have to figure out how to do that. Actually, that probably would be a math thing, so never mind. So let's see. We are here. So this is a pulse. We need to add in some numbers. Some math. There we go. So there we go. And then we need a couple more numbers. So as this gets over here, this is sending to this. And if this output there should be a, here we go. There we go. So if these two numbers are not equal to each other, then this will reset to this. So let's go ahead and try this out. So let's set this to, why not that? Sure, why not? You are going to there. You are also going to there. And this is getting colored. So this should, actually, let me do this. There we go. So now it's actually outputting a singular, a number, which this can read a lot better. So in a moment, when it reaches this first section right here, this should turn into 1. This should work. We'll have to see how quickly this math runs. Okay. Not quite. So oh wait, was it? I think I vaguely remember that there was like a weird quirk about these memory blocks, is that you can't store anything in the first memory slot. That might be what's going on. So let me go ahead and set up a couple more scene indicators around the track so that we can easily do some more testing. There we go. So this should be hitting another one fairly soon. I think I might have just missed it. Oh, no, there it was. For just a moment, it was there. Actually, okay, so that does work. Okay, so that might actually be to our advantage. So let's set this to 2 ticks. So that sends out a signal exactly 2 ticks long. We set this to 1 tick. And then from here, go there, go there. So this should work. Yes! Haha! There we go. So this will just keep iterating. So it should enter scene 5 in just a second. Awesome. Now comes a bit more of a tricky part. How do we reset this? Well, let's see here. Assuming when we hit a certain scene, let's say that after a certain scene is when we need to reset. So that means that we would need... Let's actually go... No, that is correct. Let's put in a multiplication. That's not at all how that works. There we go. So 0. Okay. So let us say that if this output right here is greater than some scene number, and we can set it up so that the scene is we're specifically able to change the scene as needed. So let us put this as here we go. So if this is greater than this scene or equal to this scene, so let's say set this to white. There we go. This is going to here, and this is going to here. So this is greater than that. That's 1. We want this to be the inverse, though. So we, I think, can do this. And that goes to that. So if I put this and say, set it to that. There we go. So now, every time that it hits scene 8, it should reset back to scene 0. I'll have to wait a few seconds for it to get to the next scene. Oh, that's right, because I didn't have any scenes through here. There's the next scene. Okay. I was trying to figure out where exactly the next scene would occur. Realistically, I could probably set this the other way around so I can set this so that it's less than, and I can just get rid of this not. So I'll probably do that once I verify that this whole shenanigans works correctly. So it's exactly after... So once it's hit the 9th scene is when it resets, it looks like. Let me put this back. I don't have any spares of those. Interesting. Yeah, let's go with that. Let us actually, let's Control E. There we go. And we can actually just set that to that. And there we go. We can actually have it manually reset to 0 if we really wanted to. There we go. So now this will manually reset it. So if If I do this, it will automatically go back to scene 0. Now, the one downside to this system that we can probably implement a method of dealing with is that it doesn't have a way of going back a scene. If I need to, say, stop the system and it's out of sequence, so it's a scene ahead or scene behind, we don't have an easy way of moving it plus or minus a scene, which is something that is a no, it's going to be a what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of anything tonight. I'm so sorry, folks. It is going to be a known drawback of the system. There we go. That's a good word for it. So now that we've got that, we need to have a system for it to use these numbers and then figure out what exactly those numbers mean. But before we do that, we need to actually go back a step. So let me go ahead and set this up so it's constantly resetting itself to scene 0. And then let's go over here, because this is not quite even ready yet. So let me go ahead and turn this off. This arm right here is not actually ready, because it does not have all the capabilities it's supposed to. Let me go ahead and reset this. Fantastic. Because there's also supposed to be a pivot right here. So let's put in a pivot, shall we? Awesome. Tip over, please. Thank you. I think I tipped it over a bit too hard. Oops. Let's get up onto here. Let's figure out exactly what we're working with. So I think this was actually the medium flat block. Yes, it was. So let's put that there. And then from here, we'll actually put on that. So that's going to be this. There we go. And that is going to be the opposite of that, so it will be here. And I flipped it. Oh well. But now, that has another pivot point. And in order for us to use that pivot point, I'm going to put in another one of the smart motors, but I'm going to actually put it in a place that makes sense. So let me grab one of those lovely things. There we go. And this is actually going to go right on the inside of this. If I didn't just do that. Whoops, daisies. Here, let's make this a bit easier on myself. Let me put this in here already. And I can't put another one. Oh, I guess I can put another one up there. No, I cannot, because that's the pivot point. Right, never mind. Now I can't put, anything. I guess I can put one in there. There we go. And then put this right there. Let's tip this back over. Correction, let's violently tip this back over. We don't have a... Did I put in a pivot? No, I did not put in a pivot. I did not put in a pivot. There we go. Words are hard, man. There we go. And then... there we go. There we go. So now there's there's another pivot. I am struggling tonight with words. Oh, jeez. Okay. You control that. You control that. Awesome. So I need to have... We already have electronic signal for this. We need an electronic signal for right here. So let's go ahead and put in that. And the reason why I'm putting in... The reason why I'm putting in 3 numeric blocks is because I'm anticipating possibly needing to have it go essentially past 360. Hopefully it doesn't ever need to occur, but it's more important in my mind to account for that as a necessity than to not account for it as a necessity. Actually, yeah. There we go. And that goes all to there. That runs to this. This also runs to this e-stop, and that's probably going to change. So I should probably put in a better system for this. It's not an e-stop. I'm sorry. That's not correct. It's not an e-stop. It's an emergency shut-off for all the rotation stuff. Oh, that's not what was supposed to occur. Oh. I was wondering what in the world I was doing. I forgot that that's... So that's why I was mentioning about how these don't need 3... these don't need to have 3 numbers. What they can do is they can run off of just... Or they don't need 4 numbers. They can run off of just 3. But that means that it's constantly running at a certain speed, which is what we just saw right there. Nope. There we go. Put that there, put that there, and then run that. Cool, so that runs now to there. And that should set itself in the middle right there. Awesome, we're getting somewhere with this. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of clean this up so it looks a bit nicer. So I know that it's supposed to be 1 unit. Well, quote unquote 1 unit. It's not technically 1 unit, but it is. It acts as 1 cohesive unit. I didn't. No, I didn't. Okay. So there we go. Now it looks like 1 cohesive unit, which is going to be a lot easier on my mind so that I know where all the pivots are. And I probably will put a different coloration. Actually, let me go ahead and just do that right now. Around this edge. So that I know exactly where that split occurs. There we go. So now I know where the split occurs, we can start working our way upwards. Now, in order to do this, we need to actually turn this. What I mean by that is that this is currently unbelievably unwieldy. So let us, especially if I'm trying to work like way up there, so let's actually turn this far enough that I'm able to do some work on it. So let's go over here. Let's go with this, because this I think is... No, that's the wrong one. There we go. Ah, much better. So from here, we can put in 2 last controls. All right. No, that should be fine. Yeah. Yeah, that should be fine. Sorry, I was thinking about how things need to be able to turn, but no, it should. This should be fine as a method. Okay. And that will turn one last pivot, which will be right here. And this will be what connects to the track. So let's go ahead and put this up here. Send this over that. And I need to put in all of the fun numeric controls. So put that there. I think I'm a bit too far away, but it should be fine. That should be receiving. There we go. Okay. So that goes to that, that goes to that, and that goes to that. And I'll put in another number there later on, so do not worry about that. Now this needs to run down to here. So does this. And there's this one right here. Looks like that's getting squished. So let's check to see if that's actually what's occurring. Yes, it is, actually. So let us put in a slope so that it doesn't get squished for future. Lovely. So that... Oh, wait, no, this one. Oh, because it's going the wrong way. Right, fair enough. So there's those points. So everything should be receiving the indication that it should be receiving on channel 1. I can't tell if that's sending or receiving. No, it's receiving. Okay, cool. So now let's run through all of these colors. So white is run. First is base. First is base. Second is, oh, good lord, that first joint. There we go. Next is the rotation joint. Then we have this joint. And lastly, way up here, we've got this joint. That should be all of them. It should be in the operative word, of course. But realistically, there's only one way to finding out. So let's send this back on its merry way around, and then we can set up a quick test rig over here. I wanted to use some concrete, but I guess not. So let's set up a nice little kind of test setup right over here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That sounds about right. These all need to be receiving, or acknowledge that they're receiving, or not receiving. Need to acknowledge that they're going. There we go. Via that channel. Then all of these need to go through here. And these all need to get set up with their respectives. And then let's just say, purple, why not? That's something that we can change as needed, so. Now, why is that not working? Oh, because they're not. Oh, I don't know. No, it should be correct. These should be. Oh no, they're not. They're not sending out to the correct signal. There we go. Whoa. Okay, I know what's going on. Hold on. So what you just saw there is actually a very interesting quirk that I noticed a while ago with how this numeric logic works. Is that it really, and I truly mean really, does not like it if you send if you have them sending via, if they've got multiple wireless connectors going between them. Now, which one was controlling that? That's teal. Teal does not look like it's working right now. Why does teal not look like it's not working right now? Oh, hold on. No. Oh, because it's not sending it to that number. Right? No, that's... No, that looks like that's indeed receiving, not sending. So why is it not receiving the correct number? That should be like, probably, yeah, it should be an 8 right now. Just make sure that those are, make sense. That is receiving signal correctly, or it's sending signal correctly. So why is it not receiving signal correctly? There's nothing going over that band right now. Is it freaking out? No, it's not. Oh, hold on. There we go. There we go. So, let me actually send this to be going that way so that they are all, that's turning the correct direction, right? Yeah, cool. So now with these controls, I now have essentially full range of the arm. So, for example, let's set this up so that it's what in my mind would probably be the load for, there we go, the load for the track, or when the cart comes onto the Kuka. So that needs to be about there, that needs to be about there, that can't be twisting. That would be the exact opposite of what I wanted. So I probably would actually have this be inverted. So this is essentially, not quite, but essentially the starting position for the track. And actually, I could do something a bit more funky with this. There we go. So that's something like this would be the starting position for the load in of the track, and possibly even the unload for the track, for the Kuka track. So now that we've got this, we need to figure out how the number system, or the memory system, is going to work. Because while the scene system works just fine now that we figured that all out, we need a method of having it display exactly which scene it's supposed to. Now, there's a couple of ways you can do this. You could use it doing all of these using just a bunch of memory pads. Memory pads? A bunch of these memory panels. But I don't want to do that for a couple of reasons. One, while it's very useful, I gotta admit, that would be very useful. It means that it's a lot harder to do bug fixing, because I wouldn't know necessarily where stuff is going bad, or where what the numbers are necessarily. There's a second method of doing this that's a bit more intensive, but I think that it would be easier on us in the long run. And that is having essentially the memory panels built out in the real space. So let's say we've got this right here. This is, let's say we want this to be, I don't know, that's not a real number. There we go. There we go. So now this is reading as that number. There we go. And this is going to be, let's say, let's actually put this out right here. Oops, daisies. I know this is me building out a lot of stuff for something that might not even fully translate into the real version, but it's better for us if we have a working model and we can refer to this later on down the line. So there we go. So this is now officially scene 1. And we need to have it so that when this is at scene 1, all of the numbers here are getting passed to that. And a really simple way of doing that is having just a bunch of these. One for each of the channels. So let's say, actually, let's do this way. There we go. These are all going outbound. And there we go. Nice. So, this is where things get a bit more complicated, is figuring out what number this is being passed. So, when this number is equal to this number, pass along that. So there we go. Now I can see what I'm doing. So if that number and this number are equal to each other, I want you to... No, no. Change that. There we go. Multiply that, so 1, with that number. So now, if I set this up so that it's now sending that data along. Oh, oops. Let me reset that to the 0 scene. Or standby, I suppose is a better way of putting it. There's a large section right here that isn't really good for testing, so let's go ahead and put in another scene block there. Oops. There we go. So, as soon as scene block 1 hits, this should, or as soon as the first scene hits, this should all start indicating that this, yep. Now this says it's still in scene block 1, but it's not anymore. Let me set this up so I can see what it's actually passing along. Nope. There we go. Nice. So that's actually passing along 16. And that's right there's the number that I want to be sending. So in a moment, I saw it for a second. Yeah, that's no longer straight anymore. As soon as I hit the next scene, it gets reset. Cool. So that's actually really nice, because that means that now this whole system works a lot easier, in my opinion. So let's say there we go. Now let's reset this back to scene 0. There we go. So we're now back at scene 0, and as soon as this hits the next scene block, this should start doing some fun stuff. Yep. Cool. And if I just turn that off, nothing should occur as soon as it's on scene 1, because that means that those motors are no longer running. Correct? Cool. And we can in fact actually send this across as there being fault. So that's actually really nice because it means that we now have a method to tell where along the ride path a specific number is. So what scene it's currently in. So let's go ahead and set this back to 0. And then once it hits here, we're good to go. And that's actually probably going to be the end of the video because this has actually been a lot longer video than I thought it would be. So, with that, I think I shall leave you guys adieu because we finally have a working Kuka arm vehicle. Nice. So, as always, if you like the video, please leave a like, maybe even a comment on some of the stuff you want to see for Project ATLA, and hit that subscribe button and that bell icon right next to it so you get notified every single time I post up a new video, because you won't want to miss this or the crawler project for that matter. So, as always, I will see you guys in the next video, and as always, stay healthy and stay smart because of everything going on, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.